Guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. Is this a video thing?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Oh shit. I would have dressed up then. Okay, but cool.
No problem. So how is it going there?
Yeah. Can you see me clearly? Yeah.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes.
So how is it going over there?
It's good. It's different from India, obviously, but coming to a country which has got only 6 lakh people, I think it's a very different experience. And public transport is free, so life is very, very different. So yeah.
Okay, that's really good. Yeah.
Mhm.
So,
So it's up.
sorry, yeah, what were you saying?
Nothing. Let's go for it. Tell me.
Okay. So we'll start with the questions.
Yeah.
We might bombard you with a few. Okay, so the first one is, what is your perception of consultancy as a career choice? Like, what?
Okay.
Huh.
So I would say that if you want a boot camp in life to learn skills in conceptualizing problems, being able to frame it in a simple manner, and to identify approaches and frameworks to solve it, that consulting is the ideal place to go. It is a place wherein you are taught to look at a problem at a macro level and solve it at a micro level. But having that view at macro and being able to deep dive consistently, that is shift between the dirty details and the high level view, is what you're trained to do. And that is a skill set that regardless of what job you're doing in life, it'll be useful. That's why consulting gets the premium that it gets, and that's why it trains you to think like that. That's why after consulting, usually people go into a C-suite level or in a higher management level for that purpose, because it trains you in that thinking approach. So that's what I would say is the benefit.
All right. And what are the growth prospects in this industry, and like, what is the timeline of that growth that you can seek to achieve?
So consulting is one place wherein you will always have visibility on how your promotions will be. Now, let's break consulting into the big four, which is Ernst & Young, PwC, Deloitte, KPMG, and the strategy consulting firms, which is your BCG, McKinsey, Bain, all that jazz. Now, in both places, designations vary very little, but you can assume that in every designation, you at minimum will spend 2 years and at max 3 years. And if you take more than that, they, in a lot of cases, like at least in the strategy consulting firms, they'll ask you to leave. So you can assume that entering at a, you can say senior associate level or at an associate level, you're looking at a partner track in 15 years. So that is what I say is the timeline in consulting. Now, depending on how your market, so if you are in a particular industry, you are in a particular function, say you do supply chain, you do marketing, it also is a function of how well your market is growing. Now, if you are in very mature markets, that is, you're going and doing the FMCG problems, you're doing the infra problems, which are, which they've been doing it for a while, then you can say your partner track is something around 15 years. But if you go into a blue ocean, that is, you're going into and creating a new solution for the market, suddenly you've probably come up with a new tech solution to monitor supply chain. You can then go sell that to the market and probably rise very fast because the market thinks that that's a great product. It's like a startup. You can be a small startup within a consulting firm and you can accelerate, but it's all a function of, is your solution being bought by the market? So you can say on a scale of 8 to 15 years, ideally people are getting closer to their partner track. Or if not, they've gotten that position or getting close to the partner track.
So Shobhit, since you mentioned the glamorous timeline that the domain of consultancy presents, so are there any popular consulting myths that you would like to address? Like, for example, we as students have been told that consulting is a very demanding profession in itself. So how do you manage the healthy work-life balance at the same time?
So it is definitely one of the most hardworking, grueling kind of spaces. And let me say, okay, what are the myths? So let's do one thing. Why don't you tell me one myth, and I'll say if it's a bust or if it's true or false. So you're saying one myth is that you work really hard and the hours are really wrong. It's not at all a myth. Yes, you work crazy hours, and it's not about. It's when you say crazy hours, it's about the fact that you're Monday to Friday. Yes, you start in at 10, but you are ending at any time, and the variation is very high because the work that you're doing involves managing the client, getting data from them, processing it, getting it approved by a boss, and then creating a story for your client to understand. Now, because your work depends on other people, the client, you start your work after 6 p.m. because in the day you are talking to the client, understanding them, understanding the data, and then the analysis, review, all of that happens later. And you are hired by the client to look into problems which they can't look into ideally because of bandwidth issue, capability issue, whatever. So one of the service parameters is how quickly you provide the service. That is where the premium also is charged, right? I mean, you can give me a task and I can do it in 10 days, but if I do it in 2 days, I can take the money for 10 days in 2. That's why consulting is able to pay you more as well. So if you paid a certain number, it is a function of the hours you're putting in. That's why a good way to do it is take a school teacher, take a consultant, and take an average industry person, take their salaries divided by the number of hours. You'll see it'll be almost very close. The only difference is the teacher is spending 6, the average person is spending 8 hours, and the consultant is spending 15 hours. You are paid as you clock.
Okay.
Right. So that is definitely, it's not a myth, and you get paid for what you put in.
Okay, so this one is not a myth. This is just something that we have come across. There's a book on it. There's a TV show on it as well. So this popular saying that consultants steal your work and tell you the time. So do you know what's it all about? Why does HBR also heavily focus on that? Why did Rod star in a TV show about that?
Yeah, so there are two perspectives to it. Now that basically is so you think of the consultant and think of the consultant's customer, which is the client. The client will always feel. Now divide the client into, you understand principal agent problem, right?
Yeah.
So the client is the board of directors, the shareholders, and then the management. The people who tell you this about consulting are the management, because the consultant is come as a check or as someone who's supposed to work with the management. They take all the data they need from the management, and all they do is once you take the data, they benchmark that data from other clients in the industry. They benchmark that data with some tools and global knowledge that they have, and they provide a perspective. But the difference between, yes, they tell you the time, but when they're telling you the time, they also give you other information. It's about saying the time is 3 o'clock. Or you can say the time is actually 2:58 and 26 seconds. It's a matter of sometimes somebody needs to know information till that microsecond, and some people just want to know what the time is. Now the board and the shareholders need a consultant for two reasons. One is to tell them something new that they don't know about other people in the industry, and two, to drive something within the firm using a third party. Think of it like this. Sometimes in your family, when you have a problem, it's not the person who's having the problem, say be it the mother, father, or the kid. There is a lot of internal issues because of which there isn't free flow of communication. Sometimes you need a third party to come and manage the situation within a family as well, right? Similarly, the consultant is actually the third party who can be independent, who's not bogged down by the internal company politics, who's not bogged down by personalities. They start from, regardless of what reputation each person has, they start from zero. They have a mandate from the board. So consultants are brought in for that purpose. They bring independence to the work. So yes, sometimes that work could have definitely been done by the company themselves, but sometimes you have that principal agent problem. You have a maker checker problem, right? It's like telling in a class, like sometimes you need an external monitor to come and control the class. The internal monitor knows everyone, so can actually suppress quality information which can make a difference. That's why you call it bringing an outside perspective, because sometimes looking at yourself, you struggle to find problems. And even if you do find problems, you struggle to acknowledge them and solve them. Sometimes when somebody else comes and tells you, when you pay a doctor and the doctor tells you, dude, this is the problem, if you don't deal with this injury, this is the kind of problems you can have. Getting that wake up call from an outside person compels you to act. So it's fair to say that they look at their watch and tell you the time because they're using the same data, but they bring a different perspective, which you can't do. It's just about bringing perspective. And for the company, take the company's sales, take the company's profit, and see how much the consultant is charging. It'll be a percentage. It'll be in basis, like 100 basis points probably in terms of the fees. It'll be a very small number. So it's not that big a cost. So why not? Why the people will say, why not? Why I'm happy spending 1 rupee to see that the 99 rupees is being spent well. Why not?
Makes sense.
So yeah.
So as a new associate, like what are the kind of tasks that you're assigned? Like when you're a fresher at the consulting firm, what are the kind of tasks that you're expected to do, and what are your responsibilities and like duties basically?
So let's break it. See, consulting firms also, let's break it into the big four and the other strategy consulting firms. Okay. In strategy consulting firms, you will have a lot of hardcore data crunching, which is basically reading reports, getting information about industry, getting information about the company, like for example, the process flows, the standard operating procedures, a benchmarking study that they may have done. In Big Four, you may get the financial statements, you may get exhaustive accounts of the debtors receivable or the creditors payable or the trial balance. So depending on what kind of consulting you're doing, you will get insane amount of company specific data, internal data. That is your financial statements, but not just the financial, the deep down, the ledgers, the trial balances. And if you're doing a strategic piece, you will have a lot of reports that you will have to read through, which the reports can be, in most cases, these consulting firms have their internal knowledge repositories. So you have to go and mine data from there. Your job is basically to go and read through a lot of data and synthesize it and provide an input to your bosses for the work streams that they will be doing. You're not going to go on first day and go and tell somebody that, listen, change your price by $3, you'll make a lot of money. You're not going to do that kind of work. You're going to do the ground level work of understanding the company, and two, analyzing the data. So chunks and chunks of, say, customer related data, vendor related data, supplier related data, to identify problems, to identify things that are going well, things that are going wrong, and things that could go wrong, to understand it. So your job initially is to understand the company and its ecosystem. That's the job that you will have as you enter as an associate.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. So you work
your Excel skills, your basic Excel skills to run pivot tables, to build financial models, and apart from that, you need to be able to read financial statements, and apart from that, your PPT making skills. So these are 3 core skills.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like you started out working in the operations turnaround division, right? Operations restructuring and business turnaround. So how was it working there?
Yeah.
What was the learning and what skills did you apply in that kind of a industry, like for consulting that industry?
Okay, so now the work that I did will come somewhere in the middle of consulting and private equity and change management. So basically, we were hired by banks to take care of companies which have run probably $1 billion of debt or a $2 billion debt, and they have fired the top management. They hire us to run the company for a year to see if the company can be run properly, if the company can't service its loan and it needs to be shut down, or if the company can be sold. perform one. Now, that is a very different scenario to regular consulting. In regular consulting, you have companies which are growing at 10% or 12%. They want you to come in and say, listen, how can I grow at 14% or 15%? So if you break it, you have the growth stage companies, you have the stressed companies, and then you have distressed companies, distressed, insolvent, bankrupt. Put it into three buckets. Most cases, strategy consulting comes in the middle and the growth phase. The one I was in was backwards, which is basically companies almost declared bankrupt or are bankrupt, insolvent. Now, the challenge there is day to day, you are trying to understand how much money do you have, what problems do you have. So, for example, I was at a shipbuilding company. Over there were labor strikes. People weren't paid their salaries for 5 months, so you had to get work out of them. There's money stuck with your customers. They've not paid you. You owe money to certain vendors for the work they have done for you. You have certain bids that you had put in wherein you've not got responses. You have penalties on you from the tax authorities. You have your office is shut down in 3 places. Your data is at risk because you've not paid the money to keep the systems up and running. So it is chaos. And daily you are trying to solve multiple problems one at a time, but you can put them into largely liquidity issues, which is money related issues, and operational issues. And as you're solving these 2 issues, you're trying to discover what is the company's value, what is the amount of money it can make in the next 12 months or in the next 10 years. And once you have visibility on that, you try and speak to investors, you speak to bankers, and you try and get a deal between all of them. So that was the job, and so it gave great insight into how companies get into trouble, how a company that is completely in trouble functions, and how you can potentially try and get a company out of trouble. So I think it was a great place. Yeah, it was just amazing. Every day you're solving a very unique problem, and you learn a lot daily, and you're managing different stakeholders. You are on ground managing the vendor, you're doing negotiating with the vendor, you're trying to convince the employees to stay, you are speaking to the bankers to get their perspective, saying what do they want to do with the account. You're speaking to investors to see what do they want to know about the company, to sell the company. You're talking to statutory authorities like the tax authorities and government, and even your like in shipbuilding, for example, you're speaking to the Indian Navy, you're speaking to shipbuilding companies, things like that, your customers. So it just is an amazing experience in stakeholder management, understanding problems. So yeah.
And what are the kind of skills that you require while going into this? Like what kind of skills did you take into this, and what kind of skills did you come out of this with?
So skills you need at the core is financial statement analysis, being able to take a company's balance sheet, understanding where the problem is, deep diving into it, like what you see of listed companies online, you get detailed versions of that. So if I get debtors, I get debtors receivable. So basically, if you can see that there are 100 crore worth debtors, you get a breakdown saying that 100 crore is owed by whom, since when, and then you initiate legal proceedings against people who have not paid you. You then go and talk to people who are yet to pay you, who can pay you but are not paying you. So you basically need to have a high level understanding of financial statement analysis so that you can do the ground level things. So skill 1 is financial statement analysis. Skill 2 is communication and stakeholder management. That is being able to talk to a laborer to understand what's the problem that he's facing, being able to talk to an employee, to the banker, to the investor, to the vendor. So you being able to communicate, negotiate, and get buy-in from people. So you need to convince the vendor, saying, hey, I'm sorry, the company has not been able to pay you, but listen, for us to be able to pay you, you need to work with us. So give us some extended credit terms. Let's try and work, and then once we earn that money, let's pay you then. So that is a negotiation tactic. Communication is talking to the customers and talking to the employees and talking to the laborers to convince them to continue working despite there being delays in their salary. That is communication skill, persuasive skills, influencing skills. So these are at the core. After doing all this, you have to tell the banker or the investor what work you've done. So you need to put that down into a PPT. So you need to be able to synthesize financial information, issues that you have identified into understandable things, frameworks on paper, and then draw insight from it saying that, okay, if this is the problem, so what? How does it affect you? How does it affect the company's liquidity? How does it affect the company's future? Communicate that perspective to the investor or to the banker. So converting that into PPT. So PPT skill is not just knowing which buttons to click on Microsoft PowerPoint. That any idiot can do it. But how well can you take complex information and put it out into very simple terms so that the other person understands it very easily? Because in such assignments, time is of highest value. So you can't waste time. If you have taken 10 hours to understand the problem, you have to tell that to the next guy in 2 minutes. That's why he's hiring you. So when people say that you need great PPT skills, it's not just knowing which buttons, it's about being able to synthesize complex information into simple slides, which convey information and compel people to take a decision. Consultant is supposed to provide information to people like bankers and investors to take the call. That's our job, to provide information to the stakeholder to make a call. That's what you have to train yourself in.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how do you address criticism regarding your strategies, like that you put forward in a project or basically a consulting project?
How do you convince people?
How do you convince people to, and how do you take criticisms? Like, for example, you put a strategy forward, but like that does not get accepted. So how do you kind of deal with that, and how do you kind of come back with a better strategy? What do you do after?
So, as I said, that consultants are supposed to be objective and independent. Your job is to go and get information. So you go and get data, quality data. Now, if I come and tell you that, listen, you can toss a coin. If you toss the coin, you will gain $5. You're at 100. If you toss a coin, you can either go to 105 or you'll go to 95. What will you do? Now, what you will give me an answer versus what Vasu gives me an answer will be different, right? It's two different perspectives on the same data. So our job as consultants is to go and get data. Then depending, the banker's role is, what is the banker, for example, in a distressed company, what does he want? He wants his money back for the loan. So he will look at anything that gives him immediately money back. What is the strategic investor's point of view? What is the long-term value that the company will add to me? So your job is to get data to people to take a call. So when you can suggest certain things based on the data, but the call is that person's. So there's no right or wrong at that point, right? It's just a perspective being shared. I can say that, hey, if you toss, you're at 100, if you toss a coin, you can get 105 or 95. In the last 7 out of 10 times, people have made $5 instead of losing $5. Now I give you this information. So I am recommending that you take the call. I'm just giving you data to support my recommendation. The call is ultimately yours. So now what can happen is you get retaliation from the customer in terms of difference in perspective. They are technical people. They've been doing that job for 10 years. I've been doing it for probably a month. Obviously, they'll know more than me in certain aspects. So you try and understand what part of the data have we seen differently? Have we done something wrong in getting the data? Interpreting data can be anything, but was the data correct? So they can correct us saying that either the data was wrong or the interpretation was wrong. But the interpretation can't be wrong. It is an interpretation. It's not the interpretation. So you need to work with the client to say, hey, you have an opinion which contradicts us. It is fine. We also have an opinion. Ultimately, the person who needs to take the call, either the boss of the company, the banker, or the investor, let that person take the call. Information is being provided by everyone. So we learn from people criticizing us. They criticize either the way we've collected data. Probably they said, okay, I went to, a company has 20 stores. I went to 15 stores. I felt like, chalo, 15 stores I'm going to, I've covered 75% of the sample. It's good enough, right? But maybe the guy sitting in the boardroom will say, no, you didn't go to these 3 stores, which are actually very, very in critical locations, which give us a lot of visibility. Okay, so then we go back to those 3 stores, and then we come back and then give up information. So there can be differences in data in the approach, but not there is always, you have to integrate perspectives of all the people. So there's no right or wrong at that point. You're integrating perspectives. That's what you're doing.
So based on what you just said and something that you initially mentioned in the start of this call, that the job of a consultant entails, while staying at a macro position, understanding the micro problem. So how do you, one, get to that? How do you develop that wholesome process and understanding of problem solving? Because that's what you do, or is there a lot of active activities involved? How does one get to that?
So that's a great question. That is something that you build on the job over time. You as an associate, when you enter, you are solving the dirty details, but you see the final PPT that is being presented to the client. You are in the team conversations with your partner saying, how are they solving the problem? So you are not, you as an individual team member are solving the micro details, but you have visibility on how it is being interpreted and what part of the entire project you are doing, right? So in your team meetings, in your review sessions, and in your sessions with the client, that is when you zoom out and see where am I in this larger piece. So you start off as an associate doing 1 task in a 10-task project. Then you do 2 tasks. Then you do 5 tasks. Then you have a person under you and you are collectively doing 7 tasks. Then you are 1 person, you have 2 people under you, you are doing 10 tasks and you're doing the entire project. That's how you progress upward, right? So it is, one, picked up on the job. It starts by you doing the dirty details, but having visibility to what is happening otherwise. And slowly, as you become good at doing your detailed job, they let you become part of bigger puzzles, saying that, okay, now you go and have the conversation with client. Oh, now you pick up these 3 work streams and integrate the information of these 3 work streams to form an insight. So it's an iterative process. It's like a snowball, slowly rolling down, and you become bigger in size. Even physically sometimes, because life is really unhealthy. But yeah, you have to try and prevent that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you think having a wide variety of courses in your undergrad helps you, or having like a specialization is better? Like, for example, doing a, let's say, BSc finance course as compared to doing a let's say liberal arts course, which has a lot of courses that you're doing, and you're getting like a feel of every single course, but you're not really doing a deep dive into a particular course. Like for consulting, what do you think is better?
So consulting, they are so see, I just studied at INSEAD, and they're the kind of people who got recruited from at consulting firms included doctors, are people from the European nations army, technical people, and generalists. But now more and more, because consulting has such great trainings and education, people with technical backgrounds slightly have a preference in terms of recruitment, because say an electrical engineer will be able to give more value than an economics person or a BMS person, right? That person understands it at a better level. It's not that like an economics person can't solve the power like the power related sector issue. It is that the electrical guy will be slightly better. Because time is a premium, you need technical people to come on board quickly. So all I'm saying is that it's a wide range. All types of people get in, but there is a slight preference for people who have some specialization, and that specialization needs to be relevant. For example, today, somebody who is great at a telecom engineer have that much market pull as he would have had in the early days of telecom. Now the telecom market is pretty much consolidated, and there are few players left in it. But back in the day when Airtel, Vodafone, Tata, Uninor all broke out, that time a telecom engineer would have had a lot of demand in the market. So being a telecom engineer at that time would have made sense. Now being a computer science guy may be useful. Now being somebody who can merge psychology and analytics to understand organization, behavior, and culture, that might be interesting. What is happening in consulting is consulting keeps in line with the evolution of corporate Inc. So as you see that there is more data being used, there are more integrations between different concepts. There is psychology and data causing organization analytics. There is data and marketing, which is now make it marketing analytics. There is human behavior and management, which is causing organization culture. So people, they like having somebody with some specialization, but it's not that you don't have any chance if you don't have a specialization, but yeah, it is preferred for sure.
All right. And on that same note, what do you think are the biggest barriers to entry for a fresher? Like, for example, if you're an MBA, if you did your MBA directly after graduation, you don't have any work experience. So, what is the situation like then?
The barrier would be your inability to, one, communicate your willingness to do the work. First, you have to communicate in many ways that you really want to do that work. More importantly, you need to be able to demonstrate problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, and relationship building. You have to demonstrate these skills in that interview. Okay. Now that when you do the case prep method, so for getting into any consulting, you have case prep method, right? You have to ace that. You have to ace it. You have to have done at least 30 to 40 cases sitting with your friends, practiced it. And if you don't do that, you have no chance. They're not going to just randomly pick you. Your past experience is sadly the biggest signal for a consulting firm to hire you, because they feel like, okay, oh, this guy's worked in power, I can quickly put him into power projects. I have a lot of power projects coming. Oh, this guy's worked in HUL or PNG, or he's been in FMCG, I can quickly put him there. You have to then convince that person that much more. So to convince, you have to be brilliant at the case prep method, and that is all. You have enough content online of how to crack the case, they call it, right? How do you quickly solve a problem that a consultant gives you within 20-25 minutes? There are multiple ways to do it. We can have another conversation on that, but yeah, that is very, very critical. So you have to wow the person in the interview.
Yeah. Okay. So we had a next question that a lot of people from our Appli group, the consulting group we have at Amanda, wanted to ask. That how does uncertainty of markets affect the consulting sector and your job as a consultant? So with regards to uncertainty in terms of clients, projects, or even in the near future, how would even the entire domain of consulting be affected? Will it become an unnecessary profession or a very necessary profession in itself?
So, as fundamentally, as I said, consultants bring independence, right? You need an outside perspective. So at no point will consulting be not necessary. You always need an outside person to come and solve. That is point one. Point two, so will consultants always be required? Yes. A person or any person who can bring outside perspective will always be required. Point two, consultants up till this point have aggregated so much information about various clients and markets, right? How can you not put that to use? That will have to come to use, right? But if you are running a company, you want to know what's happening in the market. You don't have the time to look at the other competitors in the market. You want a consultant to come and tell you what's happening. Point three, we are always living in an age of change, and consultants are someone who have access and the time to go and develop skills to go and adapt to change. So they again are people who can help companies adapt to change quickly. So it will always be required. Now, that is survival. Profitability of consulting is what goes up and down during market ups and down. Now, the funny part is, now break it into strategy consulting and the big four consulting. The big four consulting firms, I would say, are slightly more, if the going is good, they are hired. If the going is bad, they are also hired, because you want a stronger audit, you want a stronger check on your operations. Strategy consulting firms are definitely best friends of bull markets. They're happy when everyone has excess money and they don't know what to do with that money. Yes, they want to hire. But also the strategy consultant is useful when you are stressed. because you don't have time. You want somebody to come and save you that time to get you information to take a call. So why not? Why wouldn't you have this? So yes, a case like Corona right now, pandemic, has reduced the regular hiring cycles of consulting firms compared to what it usually used to be. But before that, it may have a small blip, but it picks up very quickly. It always needs people, and the reason it needs people is because there's so much churn. A lot of people come and leave consulting quickly for multiple reasons. So be it inability to contribute, the travel, the tough long hours, the work culture, the industry fit, the team fit. There's a lot of churn. So they will always need people. So that's why it's tough to survive. But the demand from a recruitment point is always there. And don't worry about their survival. They'll be there. I mean, they can diversify in the solutions they offer, but they will always be there. Don't worry. Yeah.
Okay. So is there a specific reason you made a shift from consulting to a more like specific managerial role?
So mine now, the reason I shifted from consulting to Amazon is because they are polar opposites in work culture. Consulting, you are expected to be a little bit of jack of all, in the sense you're able to do a little bit of many things, do multiple projects, do multiple work streams. In Amazon, you are promoted to build specialization and focus in one specific stream and be an expert at it. Having done consulting for 7.5 years, I started consulting at the age of 20 and I did it till 27 and a half. And I was like, I'm done. Like I had done enough industries, lived on the road, had enough hotel points and miles, and I was done with that life. I learned so much, so I understood how many things work in little ways. But now I want to work in a place which is focusing. I want to build specialization now into something. And second biggest part is consulting is a people business. Amazon is a artificial intelligence that is being built, right? Consulting is about getting different minds together, figuring what to do. Amazon is trying to create a machine that is excellent at scaling and solving problems in different markets across globally. It's a different kind of experience. So my job here is to not just do my work, but to create a process and to contribute to how that Amazon tech system works. How can it scale quickly? It's a growth problem. Over here, they're looking at rapid growth. Like over here, targets are such that you have to do 5x in a year. In consulting, you are trying to grow double digit. You're trying to grow 10 to 20%. Here, you try to do 500%. There's a difference in the kind of problem you're solving. So I felt like at this age and stage, this is good, and I had a chance to move. I had offers from BCG and Accenture and other consulting firms across London, Singapore, and different countries. But I felt like tech is where I should go so that I can learn different work culture and a different thought process because I've done consulting for a while.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
And what are the 3 things that you wish you could have done in your college years that you didn't?
College years, as in during B school or during graduation?
Both, like.
Wow, I don't think I can say a lot of things online. But I would like to principally say that try and do everything. Like you will be put into a fixed path. You are during undergrad and B school, you are on a mountain bike. You can go wherever you want on the mountain. But after that, you're going to become a train. You will have a set track, and at max, you will change your tracks at different points. But you will be at 24/7. You will be on a very predictable path. So when you're in undergrad and B school, ensure you are sitting for every company's presentation, even if you don't care about that industry, you have no interest in it, still go and sit and understand what are they doing differently, why do people want to join them. Talk to everyone in your batch, understand and try and learn from people who want to do something different to what you want to do. Don't huddle up and have the same set of people that you chill with. That is the biggest crime you can do. You have to interact with every person in your batch so that you are in touch with multiple people doing multiple things, because later on in life they will be in multiple paths, and you learn only when by through other people. Like, we are all social animals. You have to learn from other people. People teach you faster than any website or any online course can do. So spend your time trying to know everyone in your batch. Sit for any and every company presentation and exhibition and competition that you can get your hands on. Have and build a very strong rapport with your professors. The professors have access to a lot of companies, so be in their good books and learn from how they are thinking and be in touch with them. Apart from that, I would say use your time to reach out to people on LinkedIn as much as possible. When you are a student, people see right now at my age and stage, and when people are working, we are more than happy to give people gyan. We are more than happy to give people guidance, because we would like somebody to benefit from it. You're not competing with me, right? So I'm like, dude, like, what do I have to do? If someone calls me and asks me for a genuine question, why wouldn't I help him? If you reach out to 10 people, probably 7 may respond and 3 may give you something useful and 1 may give you something very useful. But go and reach out to 100 people. Go, even if you don't know about anything about a company or you don't know anything about industry, reach out to them, say, hey, I'm a student, I saw your profile, I really liked it, I'm really curious about this, please tell me can I just have a chat regarding how your experience was, what made you do this? People love talking about themselves, like I'm doing right now, right? People love talking about themselves. Give them a platform and go poke them. Everyone wants to give gyan, and especially an outsider, they will be more than happy to help. So trust in the goodness of random people in LinkedIn. Probability wise, someone or the other will definitely give you something for you to think differently, and use your time to wildly experiment. People, companies and opportunities. Wildly experiment. Don't stop experimenting in every aspect of life. So yeah, I think that's what I would say.
Okay, so Vasu, would you like to ask the last question?
So actually, we had one last question prepared, which was one advice that you would like to give us for entering into the domain of consulting. So
Yeah.
The last answer that you gave was much more than that, a general life perspective, if we may take that way. So,
Yeah.
thank you so much for your time. You have given us a great thought that yes, people are more than willing to talk. So maybe this gives us a new path to go on to as well for other sessions and such.
Yes.
We took upwards of 45 to 50 minutes. Because of time difference also, we are so sorry this was an uncanny.
No, I'm really sorry to have come late. And guys, what you all are doing right now, you may not understand it, but the fact that you all are running this podcast and you have reached out to a person like me sitting here, you should reach out to as many people as possible, and use your time in B School. It's a 2-year program that you have. I had a 1-year program and I wish it was 2 years. My B School year was the best year of my life. I can die after my B School because I would feel like मैंने देख लिया सब life में. I'm happy. So ensure 2 years of your life are amazing. So don't, even if you're chill, even if you're doing nothing, do something different when you're doing your chilling. Just be, as I said, wildly experiment. Ensure you're wildly experimenting, and keep this aspect of randomly reaching out to people and seeking advice. As a consultant does, get as much information as you can. There is no cost to it, but it can change your life. And if not today, after a year, you may have a startup idea or you may suddenly think of something which with a friend of yours, and your life can completely change. And that happens. Most consultants go on to do startups, and just don't, wildly experiment. I think those are my 2 words for the day.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so
Yeah,
much, Shobhit. We had a really insightful session, and I think this will help. This helped us a lot, and this will help a lot other people also.
hopefully.
So thank you so much.
Yes, I had a great time, guys. Thank you so much, and feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. Text me
Definitely.
regarding whatever you all need, and if I can give my 2 cents, I'll be more than happy. And good luck. You all are entering a market which is similar to which was after the GFC, but don't ever think that you have you're unlucky. What you are learning now is something that will build a muscle to fight any crisis that comes after this. The going is good for very few years. The going is mostly bad. And if you can deal with bad times well, you will be set for life. So be optimistic. Don't let anyone put you down or discourage you and give you negative news about the market. Just go and be optimistic and wildly experiment. Okay?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, and I've
Yeah,
given
we'll
on
definitely be in touch with you.
Yeah. Take care, guys.
All right. Yeah.
See.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye bye.